Hello Internet, and welcome to my live reaction for Eden Zero, chapter 217. When we last left our heroes, the Eden's One was the true enemy behind every single thing that Ziggy was doing. Was the real force behind Ziggy. Its AI had advanced and decided to wipe out humanity for reasons we're not really getting into right now, because it's trying to kill the ship. And so, for Shiki and the gang, the chapter largely consists of running away from the Eden's One, and eventually getting the energy they need to go into fast travels to get the hell out from there. The rest of the chapter, involves Elsie and James sitting in Lendard while the chronophage devours them. Wipes them from the very face of existence. Because they just decided to give up on living, I guess? It was not a decision I was really happy with. I thought it was just sort of forced. It was just, well, let's go ahead and kill them off. Which speaks to a larger trend. I sort of had this thought. I don't normally go into thoughts during the previously on. But I had this thought that, Fairy Tail was heavily criticized for how, especially around the Grand Magic Games arc, for how little it was willing to kill people. For how often characters survived fates that should have killed them. And I think Eden Zero has the exact opposite problem. There are a lot of deaths that really, really work in Eden Zero, but also Mashima feels like he's getting a little bit too death crazy. There are a lot of deaths that I feel like the series would benefit from the characters living on for a good deal, especially in this arc, especially with Aknoella or Cure or Elsie and Justice. Ziggy's death works, but most of the deaths in this arc didn't really work for me. But anyway, the gang has escaped. And now Xiaomei has told us that we are moving on to our final battle, at some point. Not right now, but the end of the series is coming up real all of a sudden. So we'll see what's going on with that. Anyway, let's dive right on in chapter 217, Father, Mother, and Daughter. So I'm guessing it's time for Rebecca lore. Our cover here is a suggestive picture of Rebecca on all fours in a cat getup, for those of you who need to get your kicks that way. But we open with Xiaomei. Hello everyone, I am Xiaomei, the narrator of this story. As Lendard fell victim to the chronophage's appetite, the Eden Zero successfully escaped the Eden's One's pursuit. Our story returns to the Sakura cosmos. With various emotions in our hero's hearts, 7 days go by. Having accomplished her goal, Holy returns to the Interstellar Union Army. Okay, that is interesting, given all of the build-up about Holy planning something, the whole immaculate military operation, the planning to use Shiki when all was said and done. Maybe with Cure and Crow out of the way, that's sort of no longer a priority for her. I don't know, because the series sort of decided at some point that her full goal was getting rid of Crow. And she all of a sudden became unquestionably good. And looking back on it, we did sort of lose that edge of she's plotting something with Shiki's power. Anyway, Aracion Seis Galactica was all but eliminated, and Interstellar lost half its number. This is Holy reporting to her lieutenants. We'll have to consider where we'll go from here. And the taller of the two lieutenants questions, are you sure you don't want to execute your immaculate military operation? And the shorter one questions, immaculate operation? I never knew what that was. It was my plot to arrest dear Shiki after defeating Dead End Crow. Is that all? She was gonna turn around and arrest them? I mean, it's pretty shitty of her, but I don't know. On the one hand, it ties back to a lot of my issues with the Lendard arc as a whole. For the most part, the individual, the reason all these plots get cut short feels satisfying. The fact that Holy, it would feel weird if after, all of the emotions we saw Holy wear on her sleeve in her fight with Cure, all the appreciation she genuinely showed the crew of Edens to turn around and betray Shiki. That feels like that makes sense from a character standpoint, but it also just feels like we're dropping plot points that could have been interesting. I don't know, it's a really weird thing, this Lendard arc. It's not been my favorite arc, I'll say that much for it. Now her lieutenant goes on, and why is it immaculate? Because I was going to seduce him with my body. Okay, that's a random little bit. But that's like the opposite of immaculate. Yeah, I kind of feel that too. And the taller one, yeah, it was named ironically. And Holy just smiles. As we cut back to Jamais, the remaining of the Eden's crew's mothers were each transported back to their home planets, where they received proper burials. Meanwhile, the sole survivor, Rebecca's mother, has yet to awaken. However, Connor has told Rebecca that she is his daughter. Okay, we're dealing with that now. Just jumping right on into that, as we get Rebecca's reaction. What? Just like wide-eyed, what? Yar. As I told ye, I be your father. And Rebecca, I love the way she just, the line art for her just gets real kind of scratchy here. What? Call me daddy, if you please. And Rebecca just stops there. No. She's just fully backing out of that. Why didn't you say anything before? Yar, it were never the opportune moment. But happy questions. Couldn't you have just said when you first got here? Nay, I didn't know myself when I first got here. Although, I did think that you reminded me of Rachel, your mother. So did he only figure it out when Rachel arrived on the Eden Zero? Shiki questions, when did you figure it out? And Hermit pops up behind him. When Noah told you, right? And that shocks Connor back on Blue Garden. When Feather attacked, we left the guild and Connor stayed behind. He was there alone with Noah. Oh, yeah, that's kind of true. There was that, because initially the gang, he was going to stay in the Shooting Starlight Guild, and then he came back with them. Alright, because we get the flashback there. Every one of them is an orphan. And that's exactly why the bonds they share with their crew are more valuable to them than anything in the cosmoses. We got this part of the conversation, as Connor comments, they all be orphans. Although actually, Rebecca's father is standing right in front of me. So that means that Connor didn't know when he made the comment about his daughter disappearing to Laguna. He just didn't know at that point. Anyway, Connor makes the same wide eye that Rebecca made upon learning of her parentage. What? She's been asking me to find him for years, and now I finally have. What? I'll spare you. That was the exact same beat. I love the sort of parallel there. I'll spare you the boring details, but it was my power that gave you away. And then we have, Connor doing the same sort of hand wave motion with a no, that Rebecca did to him. And then we cut to the bit on Dahlia, where he was seemingly, as Wise points out, ogling my crewmates. Yo, old man, don't you be ogling my crewmates. But we see that's not what's going on, just the camera chose to put its focus there to, misdirect us, I guess. As Connor tells Wise, call me Captain, if you please. But then, we see behind his shades in that scene, as he's tearing up, remembering Rachel. And Rebecca is mad. You're my father? The father who abandoned me? And Connor protests. There's also some nice, parallels in the way they eat while they argue, making me sound like a bad guy you be. I told you, it be I who were abandoned. Rachel took her newborn daughter and left me. I hate to think it, but the one who truly abandoned you. And Rebecca sort of finishes the thought for him internally. My mother. And Connor says aloud, but I hate to think it. And Rebecca as well, I hate to think that. And they're both angry eating now. Wise and Homer comment, now that you mention it, those two are a lot alike. And Homer laughs, even the way they eat is identical. And they're still just angry eating. I love the increased angry eating, the increased sound effects through this whole sequence. It's a really funny bit. So why are my father and mother suddenly popping up out of nowhere? I'd be just as confused as you be. You can't expect me to accept all of this. And at a certain point, Happy and Pino get a little concerned. Rebecca, you shouldn't eat so much. But Pino's like doing the math, now calculating current calorie intake. And Hermit comments, that reminds me, Connor did talk about camera angles once. And Shiki questions camera angle. And a flashback of Connor saying, blow me down. This lad's camera angle be tightly fixed. Okay. I don't know what that's about. Like, I don't remember that line. But okay. And Hermit points out, usually you'd say someone is short-sighted or has tunnel vision. But he specifically talked about camera angles. He had the term in his mind from watching Rebecca's gaming streams. I hope that was, like, after Blue Garden. He wasn't, like, naturally a fan of her work, but, like, you know, he finds out who his daughter is, and so he gets really interested in what she does. I think it'd be a really cute little detail. What is it? We have this image of Rebecca in, like, her gaming chair. What is wrong with this game? I can't change the camera angle. And Rebecca just gets really embarrassed. You watch my videos? Not all of them, but yeah. That video, the one where you dripped honey down your cleavage, that was some fine work. Connor, I was really warming up to you until right this second. Until right now. When you said that, knowing that's your daughter. And Rebecca's right there. If you're my father, you should be angry that I made that. Yeah, Rebecca's right. But Wise is, you know, being wise. What? You had a video like that? And Homer sees it too. Oh, this view count is incredible. And then we see, this might be the video of like a naked Rebecca. No, we're like in the spa already with a naked Rebecca. Of course, that opening shot on the boobs. And Rebecca just comments, so now she's with Lobelia, who's watching her back. So now he tells me he's my father. Am I supposed to be happy? Because, right, Lobelia is still here. I kind of forgot about that. Well, why not? Didn't you want to meet your father? But Rebecca sighs, I didn't think I'd be meeting him like this. And Clean and Homer are both in the bath proper. And Clean calls up, it doesn't matter how. You met him. That's good. And Homer is just sort of steaming over there. Hot. There's Couchpo. That's what this arc missed. The Owie War was so damn good because we had Couchpo acting as the gang's moral center. That's what they needed. And instead, Couchpo was sort of relegated off to the side, with the exception of the one moment before Lobelia got caught by Clown and Killer. Right, was it Killer? I think so. Couchpo didn't do much. I mean, and she is an important part of the story. But anyway, Couchpo comments, she's right. There are plenty of kids out there who will never get to see their parents. And Rebecca notes, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. Is Couchpo also an orphan? I mean, that was sort of the implication from Noah's words, but like, Couchpo wasn't one of the group that Noah was directly talking about on Blue Garden, though he might have still been talking about her in a roundabout sort of way. But Clean comments, don't worry, it's okay. Because Clean is one of those orphans. And Homer finally has enough and stands up. This bath is too hot. But Rebecca gets back to thinking about everything going on with Rachel. But my mother abandoned me. And then she calls out, your turn, Lobelia. Yes, ma'am. And they swap, and now, you know, Rebecca's cleaning Lobelia. Oh, Rebecca, in one of your old videos, you said, like way back when she was like 8, in her like very early videos, I don't have a mommy or a daddy, you know? But if I do get to meet them someday, I'm going to have them cosplay Happy. Oh boy. Are we gonna get Connor to Happy cosplay? I would like to see that, actually. Happy, and Mommy Happy, and Daddy Happy. 3 Happies. And Happy notes, and Rebecca freezes. I'm noting the camera angle. I'm trying to ignore a lot of the particular camera angles of any bath scene in Eden Zero. But it's hard sometimes, especially in a shot like that. As she mutters, surely he wouldn't watch a video from that long ago. And Lobelia comments, the views were only in the double digits. which is not the kind of reassurance Rebecca was going for there. Don't remind me. And Homura calls out to Clean, moving on, changing topics there, though with another similar camera angle. Clean, 'tis time for a duel. This long soaking has raised my temperature too high. And Clean just questions a duel because of that? It does not make sense. But Homura, being Homura, notes, everyone knows that the bath is for dueling. This is where I once battled Elsie. And everyone sort of freezes at that, knowing that Elsie has been wiped from the history of time at the moment. As she sort of reflects and mutters as she looks up to the cosmos, Elsie. And then we see, I forget his name, the one surviving member of Elsie's crew, named member of Elsie's crew. Let me see if I can find his name real fast. Behrman. Literally the one person on the wiki page listed as current on the pirate crew wiki, because every other named character is dead. Her Highness Goen and Hyoga are all still missing. Have you heard anything from any of them? Oh, so is Shiki, not telling Behrman what happened? That, all three of them are dead? As Shiki tells him, no. If you find them, please call. And he hangs up. Shiki is left to, sort of stare in silence. And Hermit sort of gets on to him. Shiki, I think Elsie... And Shiki cuts her off. Yeah, I know. Elsie chose her own path. I respect that. But I don't have a clue how to explain that to her crew. Which, fair. How do you explain your boss chose to let time erase her? And Clown is still there. Clown is still there in a police interrogation room. I don't see why telling them the truth wouldn't be the best option. And Shiki notes, yeah, you're not wrong, but... And Hermit stops this whole conversation before it can get too far. You're supposed to be interrogating him, not having a heart-to-heart and getting advice. And Hermit gets back to the interrogation, or starts the interrogation, telling Clown, your orders weren't coming from Ziggy. They were from the Edens One, right? And Clown just sort of grins, so the cat's out of the bag. But Hermit presses, who is it? A ship with the same specifications as the Zero. Who built it? Master Ziggy, of course. How did it gain a mind of its own? Oh, and he presses. He pushes back. Is it really that strange for a machine to have a heart? 'Cause yeah, that actually, I've been so far critical of the notion of making the Edens One the big bad, but if Mashima really sort of explores that angle, that what is the difference between an android and just a regular machine? Why do we expect ships to be lifeless hunks of metal where robots have souls, have hearts? That could be an interesting thing to explore in this sort of if this is the final saga, taking that sense of machine humanity that sort of spurred the series' best arc and widening that scope could be really interesting. But anyway, that takes Hermit by surprise. And Shiki gets some memories flowing into him from what might be witch or sister in a hospital bed. Sister. Oh, right, because he never got to see the sister Clown memories. He saw the other threes, but not Sister and Clown. As Sister talks up to her doctor, Doctor, there's no hope for me, is there? You'll be fine. Trust me. After all, they do call me the acrobat of the operating table. And that's all we get from that. The last of those little Dark Star memories. Which I'm glad we're getting that. With all the things the series has kind of dropped in the back half of the Lendard arc, I'm glad we get the reminder that, yeah, all this stuff is still on the table. It's still around. Though we're no closer to finding out what any of those memories mean. But anyway, and remember, the Dark Stars have no memory of this at all anyway. But Shiki is Mother's sister. And you? And Clown looks at him confused. Even that, like, little sweat drop on his mask, like, showing his confusion. And then on the intercom, someone speaks up. Can everybody hear me? Especially Rebecca and Connor. And we see Connor is in the dress factory in the happy costume. What a man. But Rebecca is in the bath still, and it's sister. It's Saint Fire Knox. I mean, Rachel, I guess. She's awake. And that's where we leave off. That is our cliffhanger for the week. Okay. So, I prefer this chapter to the last chapter by a great deal. There still are some issues that I think are sort of indicative of, some of my issues with Lendard as a whole. The whole, whereas the whole thing with the immaculate military operation, that it was all to get at Shiki, and now we're done with getting at Shiki. It's, you know, the same thing with Aknoella, with Cure, with even kind of with Ziggy, with Elsie and Justice. It's another one of those plot threads that are just sort of getting dropped. As I guess Mashima, like, shores up all of the plots he wants to bring into the final arc. Or the final battle, final saga, whatever we're calling it. Whatever this next phase of the story. I'll stop using the word final, because I'm not quite sure it will be final. That all remains to be seen. But anyway, there was a lot of good stuff here. I like the Connor Rebecca, for the most part, ignoring the whole thing with the video that he saw, the honey thing. That was bad, but like seeing the similarities between Rebecca and Connor, seeing that same sort of like the no motion, that's a real sweet, cute little bit, connecting the two characters. The way their reactions to finding out their connection are the exact same is really funny, and also giving a much more human motivation to Connor's like creep scene from Dahlia. It's nice. It's a nice little bit. And you know, the way they both start eating heavier and heavier as their argument goes on. It's a very cute little, like, the ways they're similar. And then, you know, my thoughts on the bath scene, or kind of my thoughts on a lot of the series' bath scenes. The actual, like, dialogue is really good from you know, Rebecca sort of reflecting her frustration at Connor's sudden emergence into her life, to the sort of pulling back and being like, no, hold on, this is an opportunity that most people don't get, I should be grateful for it, leading into Homer's memories of Elsie. That last part's a little forced to get us into, to like connect us to the Bearman and Shiki scene, but it's still nice. Those camera angles sure are something, aren't they? Like, even more so than normal, they feel like something. You know, especially this bottom right Rebecca pic on page 14. It's a lot. And then that Bearman scene is really interesting. The fact that Shiki is keeping what happened with Elsie a secret. It's an understandable choice, but I'm curious if it'll somehow come back to bite them in the ass. Though, given how much this whole arc has been prone to drop any conflict-causing subplots, that's debatable. That's kind of debatable. Anyway, that little bit of bitterness aside, I do like the whole clown scene. You know, the idea that from the beginning Clown knew about the Eden's One's control. I'm curious if, like, Ziggy was very open about that. If he was like, oh yeah, I am the Eden's One acting through Ziggy. Just didn't tell Shiki that, of course, but the Dark Stars knew. Maybe. Or if it's a sign that Clown is like a higher threat. Is in league with the Eden's One, like going behind Ziggy's back. Kind of like a Black Zetsu sort of situation. Where he's really working for the big bad the whole time, letting the not as big bad not know that. That's a possibility. We then get one last Dark Star memory, which will become important whenever all of those become important. And now Rachel's awake. and I don't know what's going to come of all of that. But after a weaker chapter last week, a weaker chapter that sort of highlighted a lot of the flaws of the past arc, it's good to see the series getting me like back to being more invested than I was in the aftermath of Lendard, of Elsie's death and Aknoella and Cure and everything. It's nice to see that like we're back to a plotline I'm already more engaged in. You know, I'm right back to being engaged. I've talked in the past, I think, on the channel. I've definitely thought this in the past, that like Mashima's great at setup. He's like instantly, no matter how pissed off you were at a previous plotline, you know, he sets some more things up and you're right back to being engaged. So it might be a bit of a disappointment again, but for now, I'm on board with it. So with that said, I'm going to leave this video off here. Hope you'll enjoy the chapter and the video itself. If you did, feel free to drop me a like or subscribe or, do whatever makes it happy, And as always, your life is your own, okay? Bye!